Yes, let's now do this exercise together. This first one. And then later on you can do some of the others. Now with this one, we would like to try to normalize this table into the first, the second, and the third normal form. So to do that, we just need to remember the conditions that needs to be met for the first normal form. What are the conditions that these need to meet for the first normal form? Normative value attributes, and all the non-key attributes depend on the primary key. Directly or indirectly, we don't care about that, but there should be some primary key somewhere. There are no primary key. Yes, there is no primary key. No. What do you mean explicitly? What does explicit means? I'm sorry? They should depend on the primary key. Directly or indirectly, but they should depend on the primary key. Well, I don't know what explicitly for you means, because I'm not sure to understand what explicitly means. But that we saw that they're different, like directly depending on the primary key, or indirectly because it depends from another one which depends on the primary key. Now we don't care about this indirectly or directly. We just want to have some kind of relationship. Alaikum salam. We'd like to have some kind of dependency. So regardless of directly or indirectly. Now, this one is failing on both conditions of the first normal form. There are some multi-value attributes, like this one. There are different values in here. This looks like some kind of ID of the procedure, and then the procedure's details. Because if you look here, that's the same procedure details, and then these are the same number. So it seems like they have like two types of information in one column. So there are some multi-value attributes. I mean, there's only one here. Are there others? They seem not to be. And there's no primary key. Where's the primary key here? I'm sorry? So there's no primary key clearly here. So we need to find one. And we need to break this into two parts. So the solution to this one, so it's just to fix this by just breaking it into two parts. Now, when I'm doing this thing, I'm doing the minimum necessary change to make it meet the condition. What I mean with that is that there's a possibility that I just take the whole thing here in a new table, for example, and put it there, but that's not what I'm going to do. Why? Because that's not really needed. I'm just going to do the smallest change possible just to meet the requirements of the first normal form. And I'm going to do the same for the second and the same for the third. Yes? I'm already recording, if you had paid attention, but now I'm recording that I'm recording. All right, so how can I represent these things? I'm going just to, let's say, represent this by this health. This is the name of the relation or the table. And I'm going just to use these. Now the pet ID. Pet ID. And then pet name, pet type. Pet type, age, pet age, and then there was some owner, and then visit date, and then procedure, visit date. But procedure have two parts, like say procedure ID and procedure. Or procedure name or description. Just going to go for name because it's shorter. Now doing this is going to fix the multi-value attribute, right? Yes. No. No, but it's a data type anyways. Yeah. but it's not going to be considered like multi-value attribute. No. Now this was split into two, but that's not enough. Now I need to specify what's the primary key. Now I can use the pet ID as a primary key, right? But if I use the pet ID alone, I'm going to have some repetitions, which are not allowed. So I need to use pet ID and maybe something else. And what? And procedure ID. Okay. So I can use pet ID. I'll put them underlined with procedure ID. I'm sorry? Why? Do we have for the same pet the same procedure many times? 3 for 1? The same procedure, 3 for 1, the same procedure. So what's the difference between these two? Is the date then when this happened. So this pet had this procedure done on this date, and this pet has this procedure done on that date. And then by using that, with the visit date, I'm going to be able to have all the condition met for the first normal form. Right? Now, second normal form. Because this has a composite primary key, I have to check if it has only one attribute that was the primary key. I don't need to check if it was in the first, it will be on the second. But now, because I have this, I need to check if there's some partial dependencies. Now, do we have partial dependencies? What do we have? The procedure name depends on the procedure ID. So that's one thing. And then we have another one.
The pet's ID as well.
Pet information here, and owner of the pet is also depending on the pet ID. So I need to do what for that? Split them out, take them out. All these groups that depends on each other, just put them aside. So now, for example, I'm going to have something that is going to be about the pet. So the pet, where I'm going to have probably all these things. And then I'm going to have something like procedure. What is that? Procedure. Okay. And then in the procedure, I'm just going to have this thing.
What about the date? Isn't it going to be in the procedure?
Well, no. I'm just taking the groups. And then this, the date is when a pet had a procedure, we need to record the date. So that's what is going to happen. Now we need to still have, that means when we split, it doesn't mean we delete the other. We just take this out from, we took it out from the health. We still have the health though. The health doesn't disappear. We don't delete the table. The table is there, but just, we deleted this from it. We deleted this from it. And what is remaining is the visit date. So in that health, that table health, whatever, well, I'm going to have the pet ID, which, first of all, this should be a foreign key, and then the procedure ID, which is a foreign key, and then the visit date. And all of them is the primary key. And this is now in the second normal form. Right? The third normal form. What are we looking in the third normal form? We don't have transitive dependencies, which is some attribute depends on another attribute, which depends then on the key. We would like to have all non-key attributes depend directly on the key. Now, this one, no need to check. There's no non-key attributes. This one, no need to check because it depends directly on the key. What about this one? Same thing. So the owner is what? It doesn't depend directly on the key?
Two pets can have one owner.
Well, what do we mean by depend directly on the key? It's not like depend directly on the key. That means if you give me an owner, I'm not going to tell you what pet it is, because this doesn't mean about this should be depending on the dependency, not the pet ID depends on the owner. It can't be the opposite. Now when we have this, that means the pet ID is going to be determining the owner. So if you give me a pet ID, I'll give you the owner. Now, for example, it will be some kind of what can I say, a transitive dependency if we had something like this. Now, if we had something like this, then yes, the owner basically just depends only on here, and this depends on that. Now, we don't have this thing, so we could do it actually, but it's not something that is going to be necessary here for again, we're doing just the minimum. But the best thing actually is to take this and put it out. Why? Because we might have the same owner for different pets. But still, now we just look at the dependencies and see if they depend directly or they have something that depends on. So basically, now I can say just the same. That will be the answer to this. Or, if I want to improve that, I could do that by just having now adding the owner, which is going to be something like owner ID, or maybe just the ID done, and then owner, and then name maybe. And this should be the owner ID foreign key without part of the key. Let's put it like this, owner, just to be consistent. And this is the primary key. But this is not something that is needed based on the rules that we just agreed on, right? So I'm going to do it this way, same or like this option. So just to summarize, we started by just trying to find out multivalue attributes, and then we split them. Then we tried to find the primary key, and then we found it. That satisfied the first normal form. Then we try to make sure that we don't have some partial dependencies on the primary key, and we ended up in the second normal form. Then we just make sure that we don't have transitive dependencies, and that's the third normal form. And that's what I'd like you to know, just to practice by looking at the other examples. Is that okay for this?